Hello and welcome to Represent NYC election coverage from Manhattan Neighborhood Network. I'm Ben Max, your host and the executive editor of Gotham Gazette. Today, we're pleased to bring you a debate in the general election for City Council District 2. This district covers the East Village, Flatiron, Gramercy Park, Rose Hill, Kips Bay, Murray Hill, and the Lower East Side. I will soon introduce you to two of the candidates who will be on the general election ballot. Voting in this race and the others on the ballot will be done through absentee balloting, the early voting period, October 23rd through October 31st, and election day is Tuesday, November 2nd. Along with City Council, also on the ballot this fall are contests for Manhattan Borough President, Manhattan District Attorney, Comptroller, Public Advocate, Mayor, and more. There are also 5 yes or no ballot questions that we'll discuss in a separate show. So with me today for the general election debate in City Council District 2 are 2 of the 3 candidates who will be on the ballot. Juan Pagan is running on the independent ballot line, and Allie Ryan is running on the neighborhood party ballot line. Incumbent Councilmember Carlina Rivera, who's seeking re-election and is the Democratic Party nominee, declined to participate in our debate. City Council is a position that includes key responsibilities and powers around constituent services, local problem solving, legislating, budgeting, making land use decisions, and more. All right, candidates, thank you so much for being here. Let's get right to it. Why don't you each take 2 minutes to introduce yourself and why you believe you're the best candidate to be the representative for City Council District 2. We're going to start this time with Mr. Pagan, and then we'll go to Ms. Ryan. Go ahead, 2 minutes, Mr. Pagan, on why you are the best candidate to represent this City Council district.
I'm born and raised in this neighborhood, and from birth until now, I'm living here in this neighborhood, still here. So this neighborhood, the entire district, New York City, has become an integral part of my spirit. I think that's a very important quality to be a representative of the people in a city like New York. The reason why I know I would be the best candidate, and to be honest with you, I like Allie Ryan very much. If I were not running for office, I'd be supporting her. And I don't see this as a debate. I think it's going to be more, in my eyes, it's a meaningful discussion with Allie Ryan. And the reason I think I will make the best candidate is because, well, I'm going to make some promises here. I promise fair and honest representation. I promise to be a true voice of the people who live in our neighborhoods. And I make no promises that I cannot keep. And we need character and integrity. Those are 2 key elements that are missing, not only in the City Council, but throughout the state legislature, the state Senate. There's no integrity, there's no character. We need that. And that's why I will make the best candidate to represent the people in these neighborhoods in District 2.
Okay, thank you. Allie Ryan, go ahead.
Okay. Hello, I'm Allie Ryan, and I feel like I'm the best candidate for the position is because I am a community activist. I'm also a mother of 2 daughters under the age of 10, and I'm also a small business owner, and I've lived here for 14 years. My husband's lived here longer, but we've been very active in the bicycling community, the environmental community, as well as education. And I feel like I agree with Juan that integrity and accountability are crucial for this role. And I think in a lot of the issues that we'll probably discuss further in this debate, those are reoccurring qualities that are necessary. And for me personally, I think transparency and accountability is good governance, and we need that more than ever, which as a testament today, because Councilmember Carlina declined the debate, and she's avoiding being accountable for her voting record, and also debating the issues with her constituents. So to me, I'm excited to be here, and I feel like the experiences I've had make me uniquely qualified for this job.
So you got it. My next question, and we'll go back to you, Mr. Pagan, first, but this is not one of the many open seats in the city where people are out of office due to term limits and the seats have been open in this election cycle. This is someone where there is an incumbent running, they're seeking re-election. What about Councilmember Carlina Rivera has been a problem motivating you to run, where you would say, these are the issues that I have with her and that the constituents have with her and what I would do differently? Why doesn't she deserve a second term, Mr. Pagan?
There are a number of reasons. I'll focus on one and perhaps I'll go to another. The quality of life throughout New York City, let alone this neighborhood, has dropped dramatically. Okay, and I remember when Carlina ran for office the first time, the second page of her website indicated very clearly that she is anti-police. She doesn't like the police, and the quality of life, the demoralization and the defunding of the police has created an atmosphere in New York City, especially in our neighborhood, where people are complaining so much. They're afraid to go out, especially in the evening. All right, I have a 3-year-old granddaughter. I like to go to the park with her. I'm always looking behind me. All right, the people on these electric bicycles just on sidewalks, dashing by children and older people. A lot of the senior citizens are complaining greatly about it. So number one is the quality of life in so many ways. I just gave you one little aspect. People fear crime. They fear crime. And people need to realize that the deterrent to crime is the presence of police. Not only the presence of police, but police acting and doing their job, but their hands have been tied. And Carlina is aligned with de Blasio when it comes to handcuffing the police. She's aligned with de Blasio on criminalizing the police. Carlina is aligned with de Blasio on demoralizing the police, and we need them. We do need them. All right. The other issue has to do.
I'm gonna have to leave it there and go to Ms. Ryan. I will say, obviously, Councilmember Rivera had an opportunity to debate here and declined, so I'm not going to debate on her behalf. But I will note that I think there's some gaps actually between herself and the mayor, where she wanted to go further in some ways to reduce police funding, but at the same time, the police force has remained extremely well funded, and there's a large number of police officers in New York City. There might be some issues with whether they're being deployed the way you want them in City Council District 2, but we can come back to that. Ms. Ryan, why doesn't Councilmember Rivera deserve another term in your eyes? You mentioned in your opening statement her voting record. Are there specific things you want to point to?
Oh, most definitely. I think I would say accountability just is number one why she shouldn't be reelected. The community has actively begged for an East Side Coastal Resiliency Project oversight hearing. And in light of what's happened with COVID, what has happened with the torrential downpours this summer, and questioning whether or not this is the right plan, as well as the comptroller returning the contract, highlighting specifically that the contract is not meeting the city mandate for subcontracted work to go to 30% to women and minority-owned businesses, or that the consortium of 6 companies has not filled out the disclosure agreements. But she has remained silent, as well as Corey Johnson has remained silent, as well as de Blasio has remained silent. So to me, is huge. She's not stepped forward on that issue. And as we all know, homeless is a really big issue in District 2. And she has not called for an oversight hearing with all the agencies involved with the homeless that provide homeless services. So to me, those are really big issues of why I question why she should be reelected again.
the East River Park situation, what would you do differently, either in these final few months of this term, or if you are successful in this election, what would you do come January in the position to try to make something different happen there?
Well, I will share right now, and this is something I'm actively on social media, as well as calling elected officials to hold an oversight hearing on the project. That's number one. We need oversight. There's nothing to ensure that the project stays in budget or on time. Those are huge issues. Secondly, if I'm elected, I think on day one, the first meeting I would do is call the mayor and request a meeting with the community to discuss the Eastside Coastal Resiliency Project and to evaluate the community-led plan that took 4 years to create and see how we can compromise. And in addition, I would ensure that there were oversight hearings of whatever flood protection plan goes forward.
And on homelessness, what would you mention, again, an oversight hearing? Are there specific policies, budgetary moves, programmatic issues that you would really try to home in on and on that issue of homelessness, especially as it relates to this specific district? Are there things that need to be done differently? New shelters opened, old shelters closed, other things? Go ahead.
Well, it's not, I apologize, I'm not laughing, but because it is a very serious issue. I think we can all agree that COVID lockdown has made us aware that the homeless shelter system is broken. So to me, we need more supportive housing, but more importantly, we need to prioritize couples and families, especially children, first in tackling homeless. I also believe one of the things that we've learned from COVID is that drug use does not create homelessness. Drug use is a byproduct of homelessness. So to me, as a mom, I think of it as, let's look at the cause. What is causing homelessness, and to help people, which I think, and this is why I advocate for supportive housing, because that also includes therapy and helping people get back on their feet, because ultimately, I believe people want to give in a meaningful way, in a productive way to society.
Thank you. Mr. Pagan, either of those issues that you want to address or other issues you want to raise, we're ready into sort of the next section of the debate, which I was going to bring up, and I'll give you a chance, Ms. Ryan, to bring up other issues. But it is, what are some of the most pressing sort of in-district issues that you want to raise in this debate and talk about your solutions around? So anything else you want to bring up about specific in-district issues and what you do about them?
Yes, the destruction of the East River Park. It's a fancy name, they call it the SCR, right? It's actually the destruction of the park, which is part of the plan that started maybe 20 years ago. Next Gen is the destruction of the East River Park is actually phase 2 of Next Gen. And what I mean specifically is that the New York City Housing Authority developments from Delancey Street up to where I live on 13th Street, okay? This is prime real estate facing the East River, okay? Of course, the NYCHA developments go beyond, lower than Delancey, but I'm talking about District 2, where we live. Okay, so the destruction of the East River Park is in conjunction with the land developers taking over these NYCHA developments and turning them into privatized developments. Okay, that's in a nutshell. All right. So the destruction of the East River Park, like I said, is really a part of the Next Gen plan. All right. They want to turn Lower East Side into just for the elite. If you can afford 10 grand, 15 grand a month for rent, or if you can afford a condominium for $1.2 million, you're going to be okay. When it comes to low income, middle income people, or the working poor people who work and just live paycheck to paycheck, all right? It's not designed for them we are being slowly pushed out, and they're doing it very cleverly, all right? And people need to wake up. They need to open their eyes. I've lived in night shifts for like, wow, all my life, and I feel it happen.
Let's stick with this NYCHA issue though, because there is quite a bit of concern about NYCHA in the district, around the city. I'm a little confused what you're pointing to when you say privatization. What exactly do you mean? What are you seeing happening, and what's the problem in the NYCHA in the district?
Well, for almost 20 years, all right, it's a slow process, and you don't see it until it hits you. It's a very clever design, all right? The officials of NYCHA, in collaboration with elected officials from city council to up to even Congress, right? They allowed slowly the deterioration of housing by way of not doing the repairs on time, the total and absolute neglect of repairs, okay? In every aspect, those elevators, whether it's painting and plastering, they allowed it. It was allowed from what I've seen. I have pictures. I have visited many apartments throughout the years that I've lived in NYCHA, and I spoke to other people. I got resources, and NYCHA needs an excuse to turn over the public housing. They need an excuse to turn public housing over to land developers who promised to give us the millions and millions of dollars that we need to repair. In return, the land developers will eventually own this property here along the East River. And the people that will be excluded, like I said, are the poor, are the low income, middle income, and the working poor are struggling paycheck to paycheck.
In specific, you're referring to the possibility of infill development on NYCHA land.
That's a part of the plan. That's an element of that plan, of course.
Ms. Ryan, let's talk about NYCHA a little bit. Thoughts on, as a city council member, how you would try to better address the longstanding significant issues at public housing in the city. Obviously, there's tens of billions of dollars of need to get NYCHA properties across the city into a state of good repair. There's a lot of discussion happening on the federal level about or a lot of that funding potentially coming through. This is not just a city council member issue by any means, but what would you advocate for? What would you push back against when it comes to improving conditions in public housing in your district?
Well, I think Juan, first off, I just want to say, I think Juan is also talking about RAD, which is rental assistance demonstration. And that is real. I mean, a fight for NYCHA is making NYCHA residents as well as the public aware of how disastrous that program is. I will say, as right now, what I actually have been doing just as a constituent, I've emailed Carolyn Mahoney to put NYCHA first. When she sent out and I know this is a small step, but she sent out a questionnaire like, what's most important to you? And I wrote other. It was like, fully fund NYCHA. Because everyone should live in dignity, and the problems that Juan describes, no one should have to live that way. And in addition, in a debate in the spring, I had discussed that the remediation of lead poisoning I believe it's for children under 5, should be increased to children under 14, because I believe that lead poisoning in particular, and I know this firsthand because my daughter had problems with lead, it really does affect your learning ability. And so there may be families that have a 7-year-old in the house. If they've had NYCHA lead poisoning, their apartments are not going to get remediated under this current proposal. But secondly, or actually thirdly, and I think this is actually the most pressing right now, is that we need our elected officials to call out FEMA, because along the FDR in the NYCHA residences along Avenue D and in Baruch and Columbia Street, it is a mess. And I feel like it's been under construction for years upon years, and it's flood protection. It's not like they're just working on the outside, but it's like, when is the end date for this? So to me, I feel like as a city council member, I can advocate for NYCHA residents, but it's up to state and federal officials to be able to fully fund NYCHA. And I'm definitely aggressively for that fight, because, and I just want to add, the reason why I want to target FEMA right now is because it is projected that the majority, like the main area of East River Park, is about to close next month. And our community is not ready for that closure.
Let me ask you both about sort of some of the nuts and bolts that we haven't talked about yet about being a city council member. Let's talk about constituent services, about making sure that you're in touch with your constituents, making sure you're hearing from them, making sure that you're available to them. Mr. Pagan, what would you do to enhance or change constituent services that the city council office runs?
Because there's so many people in our district and the problems are so varied. I would create a specific 24-hour, 7-day-a-week hotline, and where the people can call anytime, whatever the issue is. The housing could be a problem with crime or quality of life, whatever the issue is, eviction, whatever. And that way, it's not Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. It's ridiculous. Okay, people experience problems in the middle of the night on weekends. Of course, that will cost money, but I'm sure that there is money available for that. I think that's the first step I would take, because they need to know that they're being heard. The people need to know they're being heard. And I will make it a point that when they do make the call, if it's a legitimate call, that they get a response immediately. The next day, the following, depending on the call was made, which means more people power, more jobs for people who could answer these calls. Sort of similar what NYCHA has to call in whenever there's an issue with the housing. So that'll be the first step.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Ryan, what would you do about constituent services?
Okay, so I first want to say over 1,200 people signed my petition to get on the ballot. And constituent services was actually surprising to me. It was a huge issue. People complained that they wouldn't hear from Councilmember Rivera's office. And honestly, I was like, there have been times I have reached out and I haven't heard a response. So I was like, wow, I'm not alone. And so it needs to be reformed from what it is today. I value that our Assembly member, Harvey Epstein, personally responds to emails if you contact his office and connects you to an aide to help you. I personally like that personal touch, and I would like to evaluate that, like that type of approach if I'm elected to city council, because I think ultimately at the bottom line is like everybody wants to be heard. They need their issue, like you're contacting because you have an issue. And I think having that respect in place of a response is necessary.
So in our last few minutes here of the debate, I want to give you each a 1-minute closing statement in a minute, but let's try to hit a few things quickly here. Mr. Pagan, what is one issue in the district in terms of recovery from the COVID crisis, which is obviously still ongoing, that you would try to focus in on for this district if elected to the city council?
One very specific in regard to COVID, the pre-K children that are 3 and 4 years old being forced to wear masks all day in their classrooms. There's no criteria for that happening to these 3 and 4-year-old children. As long as the staff are using their protection properly, they're maintaining cleanliness and all that.
One issue, thank you. Okay, Ms. Ryan?
Okay. I mean, you're asking something that is very complex and has affected every aspect of our life.
Mhm.
At the onset, because of what's happened during the de Blasio administration, I would say we need real affordable housing. And the easiest example is the Soho, the quote unquote Soho NoHo neighborhood plan needs to be scrapped.
I have to move to your 1-minute closing statements. Like I said, a lot we can't get to in a half an hour, but I think we've already given viewers and voters a good taste of how you're each thinking about this role in this race. So, Mr. Pagan, 1 minute, your closing statement to voters about why they should vote for you whenever they vote, whether it's by absentee balloting or early voting or on election day. Go ahead.
Well, the things that have been missing from the current administration here in City Hall and throughout politics is honesty and being fair. And like I said prior to this discussion that we had, I promise fair and honest representation. I promise to be a voice, a true voice of the people. I'm not going to hear this group tell me what to do, that group. It's the people in this district. And like I said, I make no promises that I cannot keep. We need character and integrity. Those are the key elements that are missing, and honesty in being a representative for the people. And that is what I bring as a candidate and as a member of the city council. Should you vote for me? And thank you.
Thank you, Juan Pagan. Allie Ryan, your closing statement for this debate.
Okay, so as a candidate for city council, I have a history of standing up for highly political issues, such as the Governor's Island rezoning plan, saving East River Park, opposing the Soho NoHo neighborhood plan, as well as fighting for high quality education for children. And I will continue to do that. I think transparency and accountability are and the ability to negotiate are extremely important for this role as a city council member. And as a mother and as a community organizer and an artist, as well as a small business owner, I believe I have exemplified these qualities in the projects I have undertaken. And I will also add, quality of life is really important. As a long-term resident, I experience what other people experience. So I know firsthand these issues are real.
Thank you. And thank you to both of the candidates who participated in this debate for City Council District 2 in Manhattan. Thank you both for taking the time. And thank you for watching Represent NYC election coverage from Manhattan Neighborhood Network. I hope this debate is helpful to you as you make your choices when it's time to vote. Find other debates for the other offices you'll be voting as well, and other information from us at Manhattan Neighborhood Network and Gotham Gazette, of course. Key decisions are coming up for all of us and the future of New York City. I do hope you plan to vote in the general election. I'm Ben Max. See you next time.